Hello everyone, it is I, Mark Major here, and I am at the Action Figuratorium. That is the studio with all my action figure collection in it behind me here. Now, previously I had done a couple of videos on some specific Valaverse products. I did a video on their 1/12 sort of urban assault vehicle that they're coming out with called the Vanguard, and I also did a video covering a special mail-away, that's right, mail-away action figure that was and still is being offered by Valaverse, and I thought I should do a follow-up vid that covers both those items, as both those items now have some new details involved. I'm going to go over all this today, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, people. So, you know, why don't you stick around? Okay, so for those of you not in the know, and I think just pretty much everybody watching is in the know, Valaverse is a small indie toy company located on the East Coast who makes a type of modern military action figure in the 1/12 scale that pretty much competes against G.I. Joe. Now, the way I like to describe it is, for every Coke, there is a Pepsi, and so for a G.I. Joe, there can be an alternative, there can be a Valaverse, and you know, just like Coke and Pepsi, you can like either one, or just one or the other, or both, or none. I myself have not started to collect Valaverse figures. I like all scales out there, and so it's not necessarily about the scale. I don't particularly go for modern military stuff so much, but every once in a while, if there's something kind of cool or kitschy or unusual or exotic, I usually jump on it. And it looks like there may be some things coming up in the Valaverse offerings in the future that I'm going to be scooping up. So at some point, I'm going to become more than just a spectator. I will become an owner, and I'll be sure to let everyone know when that happens. Now, the two things that I mentioned earlier that I covered, the exclusive figure and the Vanguard, let's take a look and see where we are on these two things. I'm going to switch over. So, first of all, regarding this figure, this is called the Condor or something like that, as I recall. Yeah, Covert Ops Condor. So basically, it's one of the action figures, but he's in like kind of a cool sort of tourist shirt, and no one knows that this guy's an undercover cop. We don't know. How can we know? We can't tell. He's got a fruity shirt. Could be a tourist. Could be a cop. So the controversy was that in order to get this guy, you had to take physical boxes of the action figures you had bought from Valaverse. You had to destroy them by clipping out the proofs of purchases, the action points, I think they're called. I may have called them something different in the past. I think they're called action points, but if I'm wrong, just correct me in the comments, and eventually I'll figure it out. And the deal is you sent in, I think, something like 20, and I don't know how many there are per box. It might depend upon how expensive the figure was. More expensive figures might have more points. So you physically mailed those in, as well as went to the website and ordered it, and then once they took your money, which was 15 bucks, which I think covers the cost of the manufacture of the product, and they got your points in an envelope, they shipped them off. And people who got it, I'm sure, probably pretty stoked. Anyways, it turns out a lot of people, including me, said, hey, this is a pretty cool figure. Is there a way to get this guy without the Valabucks? And, you know, they opened it up to discussion to see what people thought. And there is a video right here. I have it paused from Valaverse and Bobby Vala, where he announces that what they're going to do is, let me back up a little bit before I announce what he announced. Originally, there was discussion as to whether or not it would be only by points, or if you could buy it for 45 bucks. That is, if you don't want to collect action points, you can just spend a little bit more. So the release on this is that they're going to keep the campaign the same. $15, you send in your 20 points, you get the figure. Not going to have it available off the website. However, they decided that $45, if you come to one of the conventions that Bobby Vala and Valaverse are attending and have a booth of figures for sale, you can buy it then. Now, is that really any different than having it $45 off the website? It kind of is. It's kind of different. It's also kind of the same. Now, how I weighed it on this was I thought that they should keep it the same, and because people jump through a lot of weird, dumb hoops to get this thing, which, by the way, I said I love the marketing idea behind them sending mail-in points as just a way to get people excited, and that they should just keep it so as to, not cause any anger amongst those who had went through a bunch of hoops to get this thing, right? But they're also here to make money. They have diligence as a company to make money, and they want to make more money by selling more toys. And if something has demand and you've got the supply, why aren't you selling it? It'd be stupid to have 1,000 of these things sitting in an attic or in a basement or in a warehouse, and you've got X amount of people who would love to buy one, and you're refusing to sell it. That's kind of the conundrum, I think, on their end. But it would create some turmoil with your other sales and long-term collectors and create some bad vibes, that kind of thing. So I thought, in terms of get the negativity out, stick to the plan. I think they're trying to go as best they can to stick to the plan, as well as try and sell some, if you know what I mean. So I think it's a really good effort on the part of Bobby Vala and the Valaverse to do this. But I think really at the heart of the matter is this. He made a figure that he knew was going to be super cool and that people were going to want, and that as a carrot stick, he was going to do a sort of a super dangle, but put the super carrot in front of you and, make it so that people really had to collect points to get them, that kind of thing. And I think the mistake here is that if you make something that is super cool and that people want, then it should be in the regular lineup. This thing shouldn't have been an exclusive. It should have just been for sale and just ship as many as you can, and then on the reorder, do something different. And as far as the mail-in exclusive thing, well, you should probably take a figure that nobody wants. Take something that is probably going to be a bomb and make that your exclusive. I mean, it sounds kind of terrible, but if you make anything that people really, 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 really want and are willing to pay money for it, that's entirely what business is about, trying to come up with something that people really want and are willing to give you money for. And so once you've done that, you should be taking their money. So, I mean, I know I said stick to the plan, and in this case, yeah, stick to the plan. But next time, I don't know, it sounds kind of weird, but make a figure that's maybe a little sort of more lame for your mail away, and that way you won't have this huge rush of people going, how do I get that? Okay, let's move on to the last bit of news, was that I covered the Vanguard, and that is a 1/12 vehicle that is suitable for modern military action figures, and the price at the time was not announced, just that this thing was coming out, and he has finally announced the price. It's $185. Remember, he said it was going to be between $175 and $200. So I was predicting all sorts of things, like it might have a really low sort of pre-order window that you can get it for, and then after the pre-order window closes and it goes up for sale on the site, it'll be bumped up more. That's kind of a carrot and a stick to entice you to buy now rather than later, because you get it cheaper versus later. A lot of people are doing that. You see that with the Four Horsemen. The cheapest way to get any of their action figures is directly from them at the initial pre-order sale. Once it goes to other sites like Big Bad Toy Store, the price jumps up. So this would be kind of like that. For the pre-order, this is my guessing, for the pre-order, make it a little cheaper, and then once that window closes, jack the price up. I'm predicting that's still going to happen, but we'll see. These guys are all about integrity, especially when it comes to pricing. He's the only guy I've seen who's actually dropped the price of his action figures while everyone is charging more. I know that Marvel Legends is going up, and Marvel Legends used to be the de facto benchmark when you would look at any other action figure and you would compare its articulation, its sculpt, its deco, the materials, the licensing, what kind of character it is. You could always compare it to a Marvel Legends to see if it was a good deal or not. Well, Marvel Legends are now starting to get really expensive, and, you know, they've never been particularly awesome, but they've never been particularly lame. So, you know, to see a cat roll back his prices when something that's not particularly awesome, not particularly lame, is going up. And with 185 as the Vanguard, this is kind of telling people that if you want a 1/12 scale action figure vehicle, it's going to be somewhere around $200, you know, plus or minus, and that's going to include taxes and shippings and VATs and things like that. And so that's no mystery. Now, I have been saying from the very get-go that when you price something, it has to make sense compared to everything else. For example, you have to look and see what the price of a tube of toothpaste costs, and then compare your action figure to the cost of the toothpaste to get an idea of like how much, you know, are you really paying out of pocket and what are you getting for it. And I've always felt that these action figure vehicles that people are coming up with, you know, like the Engine of Vengeance, stuff like that, that they're just too expensive. That regardless of like, yeah, I know there's an expensive mold and it's big and it's a lot of parts and, you know, the cost of production is a lot on these things. That is true, but if you make something that no one can afford, then it shouldn't be made, you know, and that's why we don't see a lot of vehicles, period. So with this, I think this guy's firmly planted the flag in that he's dedicated to low prices and a high quality of product, or at least a high desirability of product. I think is great. I still think that all the prices of this stuff is still kind of too high, though. I still think $185 for really anything is kind of too high. But there are some people who just want this. They don't care, you know, if it's 185, 285, 385. They just want it, and they're prepared to pay for it. And in which case, give the people what they want. That's all for this week's Action Figuratorium. I will catch up with everybody early next week. Take care.